My name is Lanny, Lavalley, and that was in E4. Anyway, we moved on from there, and we went down to the Mekong Delta. Aboard ship, we also had two 50 caliber machine guns on the fantail and one 50 caliber machine gun up front, up in the forecastle. So we started down, if I remember correctly, down in the Mekong Delta, spent some time down in there. I'm not sure how much time we were there, but then we moved kind of there, and we did support for our troops on shore. We did gun support, we did plane guard duty, which we would watch the aircraft launch from the carriers, and we would protect the carrier in case of attack, or we would, if some of the pilots came back, they were shot up, the planes weren't able to make the carrier, they would dump, and we would pick up pilots or whatever we were needed for at that particular time. So we did a lot of that exercising. Then in December, I think around Christmas time, we pulled back into Japan. The second port could have been Yokosuka. So we pulled in there for Christmas, and of course we were getting paid, not a lot of money. I remember making $97 a month, and you had to pay for your expenses, which there weren't a lot of. That was basically spending money, and the only thing you really spent money on was your entertainment. So you had $97, I had 97, other people at different pay grades, you know, did the same thing. You saved it aboard ship, you didn't spend it, there was no need to. So anyway, we were in port, and I had accumulated, as most of us had, some money. And so I recall going to I guess it was not the US, so it was the base exchange in Japan. And you were trying to say, okay, now what do I do? Some people gave you hints that were other sailors that had time in, lifers, and people had more experience. They'd say, well, if you're going in this port, this is what you want to buy. If you're going to this port, then that's what you want to buy. So they said in Japan, if you go there, two things you want to buy: sound systems and China. And I wasn't really into sound systems, but a lot of people bought this Akai, high tech at that time, reel-to-reel sound systems, large speakers. And I decided for my mother, I purchased a seating for 12 of Noriaki hand bone china. Now that cost me about $50, and they shipped it from Yokosuka back to New York. And had written my mother and told her this was on the way, and I received a letter back saying that, you know, she had received it, and there wasn't one cup, saucer, piece of china. It all came intact. Everything was, and I was surprised at that. So you did, you know, correspond obviously with your parents and some of my siblings, my older sister, and it was always interesting, and you always look forward to the mail. Wherever and whoever you were writing to, that was a big deal to have mail call and get a letter to or whatever, sometimes more. It wasn't a daily delivery. Sometimes you didn't receive mail for 2 and 3 weeks out at sea. So, you know, there were times you would get 7, 8, 10 letters at a time, and it was pretty important. That was a way of keeping contact with home, because there really wasn't any other way. And by the time you received the mail, it was probably 2 and 3 weeks old news, but it was still news. And so, anyway, I remember sending that back to my mother. Then we went back online, operated up and down the coast of Vietnam. I remember pulling into Da Nang Harbor, pulling into Cam Ranh Bay. In most of those places, we rearmed, resupplied, took on fuel, ready to go back out online. And that's basically what we did. We'd pull in for short periods of time, 8, 10 hours, maybe 12 hours, no liberty. You didn't leave the ship. At least I don't remember anybody giving any liberty to go aboard, to go on land. So we stayed aboard ship, and you would take on your responsibility when you did those things. Different people had different responsibilities. When you were rearming or resupplying, you had assignments that this is where your place was, this is what you did when you were doing those types of operations. as well as you had different areas, like when we were at general quarters and when we were at fighting. You had, everybody had a place to go aboard ship during the general quarters. So same thing applied, that when you were doing these other things, everybody had a place. And you would go to these different areas when you were doing that to help. You carried supplies, you carried ammunition, everything was done by hand. There wasn't, and being a low-ranking seaman at the time, you know, you carried these shells, you carried the powder, you carried the casings. So you did the jobs that you were asked to do. It was just that simple. And then, you know, we go back and do our other routines, whatever they were. So we would be up and down the lines, doing plane guarding, helping our Army, Marine guys if they needed gun support. We were shooting at Saipans, carrying supplies from North Vietnam down to the South Vietnam. So we had a lot of different things that we were doing, a lot of different things going on. I remember picking up Marines that were at one point that were standing in water waist high, that the enemy had them backs and they were gone. If we went in and picked them up. We picked up a pilot one time who was shot down over, I believe that was in North Vietnam, and I remember his name was Woodcock. He was a captain, and he was off in, I'm not sure if it was Air Force or Navy, but he and his co-pilot had been shot down. We found him, we did not find his co-pilot.